BoloXology. Now, BoloXology, the podcast for you and all your podcast needs. The format of this genius podcast, not named by me even, but by Andy Zapp, the format is so simple. It's this. First of all, calm down. Take in your scenery. I will be requiring these gathered here today very shortly after you've gone through the absolute agony of my voice. It will be a micro lecture going round the table, something which people have pre-prepared in their heads and have ready for their tongue. Then everyone will be asked, why the fuck are you interested in this shit? And what's it all about anyway, Alfie? So we are all people as curious as fuck. We have the ides of age falling upon us. But at the same time, we are the kind of people who ask the questions in life. Is it ironic that the Reform UK have the colour turquoise? And speaking of Turks, why is it there are so many hairdressers in the UK and yet people have such shit haircuts? And going on from there, and why do they have such bad teeth when they're always brushing them? And the podcast dares ask the question that is the real reason for the end of the transatlantic slave trade that white folks just wanted a good job done? No, I mean, we asked the question, we don't believe that. That isn't our core beliefs, honestly, because Gary here, he once had his back doors done very well by a black man, I'll have you know. And Andy, he bought a pointy stick one time and some Pakistani black, as we know it now. And you bought some material one time, didn't you? But, the less said about the better. And this beautiful Panama hat was crafted by the melanin-enriched hands. We will have it as. But yeah, I mean, the irony of it is that the transatlantic slave trade, of course, was made fully trans by the Arabic slavers because they did, well, yeah, and Gary's looking like he knows what I'm talking about there. Let me put it this way. There isn't very many black people in Arabia nowadays. And the reason for that was the cruelest snip of all. So without further ado, we will pass through all of this. All of this will make sense later to you. It's like a elevator joke, isn't it? And I've already introduced the Gary McGee. So I'll go around the names and the frames. What are they doing? Gary McGee is very inclined towards Japan. We have the James Bembridge on his birthday, well, near his birthday anyway, he's celebrating it today, hence the get up, But he is going to tell us why you should be shooting endangered species in the face. And it says like he always does, what the fuck is it all about? What is the purpose of God? I will be doing the essence of multiple stable states, which is an ecological theory, and Nicholas DeSanto will be covering the machinations of the Keir Starmer and what he's been doing in India and maybe the Americas as well. Yeah. So who shall we pick on first? I think, and I've got it written down here, so it must be true, is that we'll pick on Andy first because he's a beaut. He's got, life, the universe, and everything, which is what the fuck does God do?
Yeah, what is God's job? He must have a big to-do list, that's all I can say. But there's all these other gods, and where they kind of meet, there's a lot of bother and aggro. So do we really need gods, stuff like that? I got to the age of 77, I thought, not really. People say, oh, I'd talk to my God. I said, well, you try ringing that cunt. Try ringing him. something I can say, like, not big enough. So I believe in God, but yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it anymore. There's 2025 now. Just get it out of the way. Just get rid of it. Get rid of religion. Get rid of it. Might save a lot of anger. We can just try and get on, communicate on different, not on non-religious levels. Does he exist? No, he doesn't exist. Maybe he's trans. I don't know anymore. So yeah, what job does he do? What use is God in modern day society?
Well, I just think that in order to believe in God, you'd have to believe in the other chap.
Yes.
And he's never answered any of my sins. So I just can't believe it. And it's also like to say God makes no mistake. I'm proof that he does. I'm here. Now I can't. It's like a whole lot of
We are slightly outnumbered, are we, as ever, as the true bearers of the faith. But you see, the thing is this, and this is an unsurmountable obstacle for you, is that only through God can you see the truth. Because every day, as you go about your business, if you don't have an orientation, a hierarchical structure by which you see reality, then you will not see reality. And the highest hierarchy in that hierarchy is God.
Well, we're forgetting Megan's truth then.
What's Megan got to do with it?
Well, she says that she speaks her truth.
All right.
And so what's the difference between her truth and the truth of your truth?
Well, her truth is putting pretzels in a jar, isn't it?
Yeah, and wrapping them up to the... Yeah.
Yeah. I think God's a little bit bigger than pretzel jar wrapping, really.
Well, how big is God?
To say that.
A little bit bigger than Megan. So not really. Look at my followers and Megan's one.
I don't think Megan thinks God's bigger than...
No, quite.
I mean, yeah, I didn't predict the Megan factor, to be honest. You know, that wasn't on my. But so, kudos for raising the Megan factor. And what about the ginger one as well, then?
Well, did you see? He spoke to well, it was trying to ring these doorbells, trying to find his friend. He couldn't find his friend.
Mm-hmm.
And just going around some sort of...
Maybe, just maybe, he's looking for time.
I'm always reminded of a line in a song by Matt Johnson of the band The, and it goes, "If Jesus came down to earth today, he'd be gunned down cold by the CIA."
That's nice stuff. Yeah, in Leeds we call his band Tut. It's sad. It makes it really hard.
Well, it's close to V, which is a very kind of religious thing, isn't it?
You mean THS?
Yeah, no, THE. V and I.
Oh, right, okay. Because THS is like, maybe Nico can put me straight here. That's like, you see, the name of God is not communicable by human tongue. That's why Yahweh is a close approximation, and THS is
I did it
one of
Yahweh.
Thank you, Frank.
You should do your best.
You should join forces with Synopsy.
Yeah.
I lost my faith in Big Frank's disco.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other blue-eyed songs are, but yeah, THS. Do you have that in Italian or?
No, I mean the Italians are more relaxed. The Jewish people, the old Yahweh thing, and of course, Muslims have this thing. They keep saying it all the time. They just can't touch the letters of the name of God.
All right, okay. Because they have many names for it as well, don't they? Which is, one of the inversions that goes on there. I mean, without drawing you into, sort of a life-ending episode or anything, do you not believe in Allah as well?
In what?
Allah.
Allah. God, doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Why do I need to believe something? Oh, that's a good question, because there was a time when this was the argument, maybe it still is, that we don't need God to be good, right? These smug atheists, some of them in the comedy circuit, some of them very successful, the likes of Eddie Izzard or Ricky Gervais, right? The argument is, why do we have to have this stick and carrot? Are we not better than that? But if you look at the state of the world, maybe we kind of need that stinking change.
Yes.
But maybe that's why the state of the world is how it is because of the. When I was, I was, not a fear as a child. Being brought up as a Catholic, so that my God is a punishing God. And then you've got the kind of the Old Testament God, then they kind of changed it, didn't they, with the King Charles, whatever it was. We'll have a nicer one now, that other one's a bit fucking
Oh, you mean King James Bible?
King James Bible.
Yeah.
We'll just have a better one, because that one's a bit fucking hard.
Just going back to Allah, though, I mean, I had an Alan Sarg once, and I didn't find that I reached any closer to God. What I found was that, the world, the bottom was dropping out of my world, and then I had this Alan Sarg, and the world was dropping out of my bottom. So,
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if that casts any light on it, but, I was in the darkness. I was in the darkness of this latrine for quite a while, actually.
We've got
That's
you've
very
got
high.
yeah, but you've got to admire the Muslims. They are more hands-on, aren't they?
All right.
So
They're very fancy, yes.
yes, they are very handy. I find, I have to admire them.
I mean, you can reach them by pager sometimes. Yeah.
Yes, they do. Yeah. It's just kind of a weird one, the whole God thing.
But you see, I mean, sorry, James. I will just bring James in next because Jen, on this, he's brought the Megan question, which is a big theological question. But what I want to say first is, I've probably forgotten it, but no, I haven't. It's that you see, God, when you say doing, that's not a concept which is appropriate to the world of God because God exists all time and everywhere, eternally in the moment. So time doesn't exist because causation doesn't exist if you were eternally present.
Yeah.
Because the cause doesn't occur before the effect. It's all at once. That's why Jesus came into linear time in human form, fully divine, fully human. This is the theology of it anyway. So if you take the prime sacrifice that Jesus did was to come into our quotidian world of the linear time and exist as us and then provide the ultimate sacrifice. Whereas God,
What was the ultimate sacrifice?
well, that he became human. That instead of existing outside of time,
They kind of just
he existed in time and had a biography.
right.
Yeah.
And
Go for James.
I was just going to say that.
I spoke over you.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that in a way, though, some people are so Christians, I think they need religion to control. Some people need to be controlled. No, I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
well, I think religion's for the stupid.
Yeah, but there are so many stupid people that we need. That is our need for religion to control them.
Or for children.
Do you need a bit of chastisement, Nico?
I think I was generally good.
You don't need the control,
But yeah, so go on.
I had the surface appearance of being good, but underneath I was bad
right.
as a child.
In secret, you were a bad boy.
Yeah, I was a bad boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like the harness, being applied.
I just did some awful things, but I managed to get away with them.
PG.
Right.
I don't know how you can be
Getting blind drunk when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
That's not.
Well, yeah, but you've got deep into that sort of thing, though, aren't you? But it's pretty, my mother was pretty appalled. My mother was pretty appalled, though.
Yeah, James has got a whipping.
I've got other examples. If you
I've got spanking paddle,
Oh, right. Okay, that's very similar, though.
which I've
A
also seen.
spanker.
Uh-huh. But I mean, I've tried to counter with a proper theological argument there with you. I mean, you're sort of post-traumatic Catholic disordered, but I mean, I was raised in a nihilistic sort of background, really. So I found my way through from nihilism to the promised land of the Pauline leap, even it's called, isn't it? It's Pauline leap. Yeah.
I've only given half the story about getting blind. I was 12 years old. It gets worse.
Oh no, I don't think we need to go on.
All right,
Darren.
Oh,
it didn't.
Oh,
Flying drunk but not blowjobbed.
no.
Okay.
Then it gets worse. It gets worse.
What?
But we'll leave it there.
Yeah. Okay, well, can we leave it there? I mean, why is this? Well, we need to know for the format of the show. Ask why is this a question which is interesting to the Andy Sam?
Well, it's interesting because, like people, when I talk to someone, they tell me they believe in God, and then I say, well, how do you know? How does God exist and stuff like that? And there's always just that toing and froing. There's always that two sides of the argument, and some people can't really believe and are devout and stuff like that. And I think, well, how are you doing that? I don't really need God in my life. I can't see the purpose of it. And other people saying, well, if when I'm alone at night and and I'm in these dark places, I say, listen, you live in a first world country. Oh, well, how we've suffered, and I've gone through all these problems and stuff, and it wasn't for God, I wouldn't get through this.
Well, there's a close correlation, isn't there, between mental breakdown or emotional breakdown and religious conversion. So I think, which is what you seem to be alluding to.
It just sounds, like I don't get it. I'm trying to have the gut. Well, I just believe in God. Well, I think, how does it help? What I'm asking is, how does it help people having a belief in a God?
But it certainly helps them get by and overcome difficulties. Because even nowadays, we've all heard this. I believe in God, but I don't believe in organized religion. Or I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. We have so many institutions, whether it's God, organized religion. We have people. Sometimes a football club becomes like a congregation, the routine, the faithfulness. In Italy, even in Rome, they want to ask you, well, what is your favorite football team? They say, what is your faith? They actually use the word faith to that extreme. And then all these yoga classes and Zen and Pilates and all of these things kind of show that people, even when there's no God, they need to replace God or religion, organized or not, with something
bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, one thing is
nobody. That's what I'm saying. James Beveridge doesn't need a god. People prostrate themselves before him.
yeah. Well, we're going to worship you anytime soon, but I mean, there's a final riposte though to Andy.
Yeah, but we'll put it on hold.
Yeah. It's that one of the realizations that might help you is that God is there whether you realize it or not, because God works through us. So when you say, there you are by yourself, well, you're not, as it happens, which is a lucky thing. But God works through other people. So we are here for each other. It's like
Speak for yourself.
the classic. Well, James is here for him. But
Yeah.
the classic example would be James on the roof there, and it's flooding around his flat in some posh part of fucking London, and he's praying because he finally finds that this might be his last chance of wearing his Panama.
No, he wouldn't be doing that. He'd be
the gadabout.
taking a load of drugs and thinking, oh well, fuck it.
Well,
I don't see you. I see that version of you.
it's very possible
rather than suddenly being converted to God.
that he's ramming a suppository up there or whatever. But just for the sake of argument. No. It's this. You pray. You say, God, help me out of this situation. And this boat comes by, and you go, no, it's okay. God's going to help me. And they're like, okay, well, cue, and they paddle off. And then this helicopter comes along, and you go, oh, no, it's okay. God's going to help me. And the helicopter goes away because it's only got so much fuel. And then this voice booms above Fritz, just says, for fuck's sake, James, give me a chance.
Yeah, that's an old story. No, it's not right.
Obviously, it's an old story.
Yeah, all right.
Jesus.
What
will we say? What will we
You get the first boat that fucking came along, wouldn't you, really? Let's have it right. Oh, it's a helicopter, yeah. I know you wouldn't sit there and go, oh, yeah, wait, God's
Oh,
sake.
I'm
Nah.
not telling.
All right, just for this, my revenge is we move on to Gary now. And Gary's going to do his micro lecture because he's champing at the bit. He's got his tongue at the ready. He's going to tell us about Japan. Gary,
No, it's right. It's true. It's true. Very tongue.
Gary Gusling McGee. Go for it.
Gusling.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk about the band Japan. Now, let me do a bit of backstory because I was a big fanboy of theirs, and I still am actually. And it's got nothing to do with the country Japan, by the way. So scotch that one. So going back to 1977, I'm a 17-year-old, and this band called Japan releases an album called Adolescent Sex. So I was immediately drawn to the title. And so I just went out and bought it without having heard anything by them, right? Because you're obsessed with sex at that age when I was. So I just found that they were absolutely brilliant. So it was like a kind of, serendipity that was happening.
What was it about them that you found?
Well, because they were like a combination of sort of glam, funk, rock, punk. They were just this incredible kind of iteration of new music, and they looked amazing. I mean, they looked like kind of really androgynous. Well, they looked a bit like the New York Dolls, but they were like from Catford.
Mm.
And so they all went to Catford High School. Now, if you know anything about Catford, you know that's like real sort of working class South London, and yet they had these aspirations, and they at the ages of 15, 16, they were wearing full makeup, and they went. Yeah, this was a rough school they went to. Secondary school. It was a rough school, and they were like, wearing makeup and wearing kind of. Obviously, they were into Bowie and they were into all that stuff. And it was incredibly brave of them to be like that at that age. And so I was incredibly impressed by that. And the music was fantastic. And also, they were incredible musicians. The first time I had such brilliant musicianship, and they were like 19. The bass player was just fantastic. They were all brilliant musicians, and they were 19 years old. They were voice captain, and I was in awe of them because I was they were only 2 years older than me. So they were like, if you like, I could really identify them. And their music was brilliant, and I loved the first time I played it today. And then they became big in Japan. and they toured Japan, and it wasn't just because they were called Japan. It was that they hit a moment that was completely ripe for Japanese youth to embrace them. There was a lot going on there. Anyway, so then they produced another album, which was all equally fascinating, very accomplished. And they signed to, this is the story, they signed Ariella Hansen, which was a German record company, had a competition, loads of bands entered. And only 2 bands got through to the final, and it was Japan and The Cure.
Oh.
Right. And so Ariella Hansen decided to sign them both. They dealt with both record contracts. And Japan took the Ariella Hansen contract, and The Cure declined and decided to go with an independent label with Fiction Records, and the rest is history. Anyway, Japan had a very unhappy relationship with Ariella Hansen. So by the time of their third album, they were picked up by Bradley Virgin Records. And they released Quiet Life, which was a complete departure from what they'd done before, because they completely embrace our kind of electronic synth thing, and so they kind of toned down their image, so they no longer look like glam. They become these kind of like Kraftwerk influenced kind of pop, and it's an absolutely brilliant album. It's just absolutely seminal piece of work. But the relationship with Ariella Hansen wasn't good. Ariella Hansen were basically a disco label. They produced German disco. Do you remember those tacky German disco records from the 1970s?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so,
well, I mean, it went beyond tacky, though, didn't it? I mean, if you look at Donna Summer, so...
very much that sort of thing. And so it really wasn't a good match, and they had a very unhappy relationship there. Anyway, so they then released Quiet Life, and they became this incredible band. It's a brilliant album. I played it to you for the first time.
To them
Yeah.
a few weeks ago.
And it was very, very groundbreaking. The band Duran Duran, who I'm Jerome, based their entire oeuvre on the record, the track, Japan's track Quiet Life. Their entire oeuvre was completely copied.
That's sung in a
flat
way.
Yeah. And they were complete copyists because Nick Rhodes and bass player, not Simon Bond, bass player Taylor, they went to see Japan on the release of Quiet Life, and they were completely bowled over. They were completely obsessive. And so the whole of the Duran Duran oeuvre is based on that. Not a lot of people know that, and they should do. Lots of Americans think that Japan copied Duran Duran, which goes to show how fucking ignorant they are, by the way. But anyway, but it's completely the other way around.
So we've been from the sublime to the oriental, effectively. I mean, one of the things which confused me was turning Japanese.
Gary Newman.
Oh, yeah.
Gary Newman, who was obviously the kind of synth pioneer,
With his uncles, even, yeah.
And he lived there where I was growing up, Hayes, in West London. Gary, another Gary. And he became completely obsessed with Japan, and he followed that on their tours to Japan. And he tried to seduce me, basically, Japan. This is all in the book, A Foreign Place, a biography of Japan, written by Anthony Reynolds, Japan, 1974 to 1980. Brilliant book. This is all in there. I'm not making anything up. And so he tried to seduce Nick straight as times, no, really. So that was embarrassing.
We're just like you come back in again when we ask you about why this is particular appeal to you.
Yes.
There's something that occurs to me for people who are not familiar with their work, listening to them before this. To me, they have quite a dark sound, almost like they've taken Roxy Music and the sort of voice of Brian Ferry, and they've like taken it through this sort of darker place that's also got this sort of more stronger doomy, and So like contrasting with. I mean, I used to joke about The Cure. Was like if that's
very doomy.
Yeah, if that
very, very doomy.
If that's the cure, then I'd rather have the disease, really. That's how I felt about, what is he, Robert Smith, with his hair and everything. He doesn't look a well man. But yeah, I mean, I'll open it to the floor just to probe Gary with people if they've got any.
Who were their influences, then? Do you know?
Well, the Velvets, Underground, Lou Reed, all that. I mean, Bowie, obviously, but then everybody was influenced by Bowie.
Yeah.
Roxy Music, obviously. But also, I mean, they liked the kind of New York, pre-punk, post-punk scene as well. New York Dolls.
I mean, you mentioned
Iggy Pop and all that sort of thing.
You mentioned New York, but they seem more sophisticated than New York Dolls. I mean, even the dress and everything. Yeah, but we don't know what they might have been from the Bronx in New York, might they? Which is probably the Catford of New York, whatever.
There was this story, though, wasn't there, where Bowie actually went to see them at a concert, one of their concerts.
Oh, yes, I've seen it. Right. So what happens is, there was this big concert, Hammersmith Odeon, which was a big venue in those days, back in the day. And all the bands played there, all the great bands. And so they were doing their concert there, Japan doing their concert, and it was 1983. And it's a great thing. It really is a legendary concert. Anyway, Bowie turns up at the door, and security won't let him in. David Bowie turns up at the door, and they won't let him in. They didn't know who he was. How fucking thick can you be, as security, to not know who David Bowie was?
And he'd
In 1980,
he'd be like too sophisticated to say, by the way, do you know who I am?
No, he didn't say, do you know who I am? But they wouldn't let him in. Anyway, word got backstage to the Japan guys, and they were absolutely apoplectic that they didn't let him in. Could you imagine? Oh my God.
So they didn't let him in?
No. No, it's all right. David Bowie had to walk away. And he kind of gone on a win at the last moment because, he he'd heard they're out, you know, he'd been listening to their music. So, well. He didn't see them as copies, he saw them as peers.
Right.
He thought they were really sophisticated.
Uh.
What they were doing was they were taking sort of his thing into the future, or taking on into the future and doing something new with it. So obviously he wanted to go see. It was just unbelievable. Yeah, the Japan guys were extremely unhappy about
Did you make it to the concerts then?
No, I didn't actually.
All right, good.
No, I didn't. The tickets were like sold like wildfire. And I just, when I realised it was happening, they were all sold out.
So what was the biggest sort of venues that they were playing then?
In Japan.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
I mean, stadiums.
Yeah.
You know, stadiums in Japan. Like, you know, like 50,000, you know. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
The junior Gary, though, he couldn't have made it to Japan, perhaps. You know, you would have been big in Japan, but, you know, that's just a dirty joke. But like, say, around London or whatever, you know, that'd be more doable. But those tickets were just, they weren't big venues then, or...
I was just too late. I was just too late. I didn't get, you know, get word of it soon enough as well. And also, because it was such an event, you had a lot of kind of like music media, music bizzos there, you know, hogging, you know, and their friends, and you know, so it would have been, it was an event. It was an event.
Sure.
So, and if David Bowie came to then so relies on me not being able to get a ticket.
Because it's like I was really into Talk at the time. There's a band with Mark Hollis and what have you. I mean, I assumed that they, again, you know, they were from, like, you know, arse end of London or whatever. But because there was a guy called Tim Freese Green,
Yes.
it was like their producer, he was like the fourth member of the band, effectively. I assumed that they were real poshos, you know.
Well, Freese Green was obviously was a very posh family.
Fair enough, but then you hear sort of Mark Hollis being interviewed.
Wasn't Freese Green the father of an artist, quite a famous artist or something?
Not sure, but and like again, because the internet didn't exist, and we'd look this shit up, didn't we? So, but like as I say, well, you hear then Mark Hollis being interviewed, and he's got this really broad Cockney accent, and it sort of demolishes the whole thing of, you know, this what you built up in your mind out of practically nothing, because that's what we did in those days. What were you doing in those days, anyway?
I think I was in a toilet with a needle hanging out.
Not listening to Japan or Talk.
I kind of stopped talking
John Fox or...
Sparks.
Oh, no, brilliant one.
Yeah, I like Sparks.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. This town isn't big enough for the both of them.
Yeah, I just thought it just really had it, but I didn't really. Bowie was I kind of switched off really from music after, you know, the late
2 hours of it.
I was busy doing other stuff really. Music wasn't kind of.
I mean, with the Sparks, though, I mean, the fucking balls of the guy to go around with the Hitler tower.
Yes.
I mean, people know the Sparks from the fact that the keyboard is. He was the brother of the lead singer. He had this toothbrush moustache. There he was. So fantastic.
They were totally oddball, weren't they? At the time, it was like very odd.
Well, they had a long career as well that we don't know about.
They're brilliant.
Yeah.
So electro acoustic music, effectively, because they incorporate like sound effects within the music and the and all that. Well, so what's your you've drawn a cock on
This is my contribution.
All right. I hope you're going to sign that. So we're going to
Adolescent sex.
We're going to sell that on the. I mean, you must have purchased.
That's what adolescents do.
He is very adolescent, isn't he? I am 34. I was going to get him the badge, you know. But yeah, I mean, you must have rushed out and bought non-stop erotic cabaret then,
I
right?
did.
Soft
Yeah,
Cell,
no, absolutely. Yeah,
For the same
no,
reason.
No, I was
turned
a big
off
fan
of that, yeah.
Big fan of that. Yeah, because it was just like it spoke to you at that age. It was
from Nico then, from Gary
Oh, well,
Newman.
yeah, but he was great as well. Yeah, I liked him. Yeah, he was very attitude. I liked his attitude.
From Gary
I
Newman
lived near
then
him
to John Cox and Japan and everything. Is this all a foreign language to you? Were you getting this on the radio in Iran?
We all been running like 90s. So it was already.
Oh, it's already past the post.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman.
All right.
Yeah. Bit of a
Yeah. I mean, when Gary Oldman was young, Gary Newman was old, wasn't he? So yeah, it's quite a weird one that. But Japaning. I was telling you about later that the black screw is Japan, but that's one for the hardware fans, really.
Oh, Paul
Not
loves
the
the black
hardcore
screw.
fans. Not the hardcore fans, the hardware fan. If you go down to B&Q, you'll find a Japan screw. Yeah,
Okay.
it's black.
Yeah.
So we ask again. We come back to Gary and we ask why the band Japan appeals to you so much. You've given little hints, but we need to explicitly ask you.
Because I thought they were just really fearless, and I really admired that. And walking around in Captain full makeup in 1974 must have taken some fucking balls. That's all I can say. And they were just incredibly creative and really great musicians. And I was at an age where I really kind of was in awe of them. When I was 17, 18 years old, or 19, at those ages, I just thought they were just amazing. Yeah, I was a huge fan. Huge. And also, because I used to kind of dress up as well.
All right.
Not like that.
Did you bleach your hair?
Well, I was losing my hair, so I didn't bother. But
That could have gone two ways, couldn't it?
bleach my pubes.
Uh,
No,
Still down.
no. My image was more sort of black leather and Lou Reed and the Velvets. And
all right.
I
Okay.
kind of was more drawn to that.
The Leather Joy Boy. Yeah.
And sort
The
of
next
black eyeliner and sort of black nail varnish.
Waiting for you.
Now,
man.
black nail varnish has become very passé now because everyone,
Tattoos, facial tattoos.
every Gen Z type is wearing that. But in my day, it was daring.
Right. Yeah.
Well, in my day, just like long hair was there.
Well, yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
So we'll move on to the birthday boy. He is very daring. He's making daring moves. We didn't even mention, by the way, that a friend of Gary McGee's used to get high with Kate Bush.
Kate Bush.
So this is the inside skinny that I have, as they were skinnying up there in.
Well, Kate Bush did an interview recently. She said, so talk about your early, like she was talking about her early career and everything, post, Wuthering Heights happened. And she says, well, for the 8 years after Wuthering Heights, I was stoned. I don't remember much of it because I was completely stoned the whole time for 8 years after Wuthering Heights.
Wow.
And then when she became pregnant with Bertie, her son, she stopped it all. She stopped drinking, she stopped smoking, she stopped the whole thing because she was pregnant. She was Bertie.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my friend, an ex-boyfriend of mine, he was living in a flat with a guy called Brian Mums, who was EMI's press officer, EMI Records. And he handled all sorts of really big bands. He had Kate Bush, he had Queen, other bands there. He was involved with their PR. Anyway, so Steve's in there in the flat, and there was a knock on the door, and he opens it up and said, Kate Bush. She said, oh, I'm here to see Brian. Because he wants me to write an article, he wants me to do an interview, blah, 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 and we need to talk about it. And so he said, oh, what is up here at the moment? It's becoming, I expect you in that, not for an hour, only quite a year. And she said, oh, fuck, what should I do? Just said, well, Steve said, oh, come in. So they went downstairs in the kitchen. Anyway, so she starts skinning, she starts smoking, she starts skinning up this skin. And so Steve was sitting there, getting stoned, giggling with Kate Bush in Brian Mudd's kitchen. And then Brian, an hour later, Brian turns out, and they were completely stoned off their trolleys. Anyway, Steve maintains Kate Bush was lovely. She's very, very nice, very lovely girl. But obviously, a total weed head.
It's all right, Gary. We're going to cut all that, but I'm just personally interested in it. That's all. I mean, for Andy, that used to be basically just a Wednesday.
Wednesday morning.
So, without further ado, we'll pass on to. I mean, if only he would have stood a chance in life if his mother was Kate Bush. but she would, she'd give up before the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, he could have been a genius, he could have been a contender, he could have been a somebody.
Well,
But instead he's James Bembridge.
Oh, now hold on. Let's not forget. Now, you don't know this, Nicholas, but I've got a show every Friday, and one woman said, what did they call me?
National treasure, yeah.
I'm a national treasure.
National treasure.
Oh.
She wasn't being sarcastic or
I didn't even bribe. No, she wasn't being sarcastic.
Right up there with Rob Harris.
Oh, that's my line.
I could have been right up there with Rolf Harris one time. Apparently he was into that, but yeah. And what's your cue to just, fire away?
So my subject is endangered species and how to kill them. No, it's basically about when I went a few years ago. I went to Zimbabwe, and I was helping with these. Thank you. With these anti-poaching rangers in Zimbabwe, and
Not from Sloane Square.
no.
Okay. Sloane Rangers. No.
We got it.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry, I interrupted you, which was very fucking rude.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead.
But it's like these people with these middle-class metropolitan sensibilities. They don't realise that in places like Zimbabwe, the government doesn't fund the anti-poaching rangers who protect like rhinos and what have you, elephants. Most of these from charity. Charity barely covers it. Most of the money they get to fund them comes from trophy hunting, which is an unfortunate, uncomfortable fact, but it does. And so basically, I'm trying to mount a defence of trophy hunting. Really, it was incredible. What happens is the poachers there, most of them are ex-military. They belong to these crime syndicates who are very involved with China. And there was one anti-poaching ranger there who said to me, James, there was like this gunfight with AK-47s. One bullet went just less than a millimetre past his head.
Wow.
He said, in that moment, I realised, truly what it is to feel like your own mortality, basically. Yeah, well,
A rhino.
but it's and you know what they do with the ivory? The Chinese, they just grind it up, put it in this cocktail that costs like 500 quid or something. And it's just they don't even think it does anything for them. It's just a show of wealth.
Well, it's effectively like biting your nails, really, because that's the same substance. If you just grind your nail like that. But it also is meant to give them a hard-on, isn't it? So, if you want a stiffy, then basically you take a stiff drink of a rhino. I mean, but all it is.
Rhino.
That's rhino horn. Is that
where
the eye comes from? Getting the horn, yeah. Chisel. Okay, it's a little bit. It's tooth, isn't it? It's tooth enamel, effectively, is the elephant one, then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's closer to the nail. But yes, so basically, my main point is that stupid liberal metropolitan types have realised that actually, if you really want to protect rhinos, if you want to stop the poaching of elephants and what else is endangered, anything endangered basically around that area, then you've got to be pro-trophy hunting. And it's like these idiots, they think it's so easy to actually hunt one of these animals. I was there. I hunted this thing called impala, which is basically like a deer. I should have got a photo.
We'll apply the photo
Yes,
to the
super.
thing
It's very
of
quiet.
the Bembridge with his foot on the throat or whatever.
Not
it is.
controversial at all.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, no, it's actually, I lost 500 followers when I posted that on Twitter. And, but it's like, they said, oh, this small pricked idiot just got out of the car and shot this animal. No, I was like, tracing this animal for like 2 days before I killed it.
Did you pay for that as part of the trophy?
No. There's no Sainsbury's in these conservation areas. You do actually have to kill to eat. And so I ate the liver, not with the Chianti there.
Yeah. Did everybody notice the humble brag, by the way, that he can lose 500 followers?
Oh, I can afford to.
He can lose 500 followers on X. Yeah.
Depends how often he has in Palace.
Yeah. But I mean, everybody remembers, I guess, there was the dentist, wasn't he? And he shot that famous lion in the face.
Oh no, that was
He was like an alpha male lion, wasn't it? And everybody got upset.
It was old.
I didn't pay. I thought he paid
No.
part of the
Did it?
information scheme.
Because mostly they pay at least 100,000
Yeah.
to build one line.
He just said open wide and blammed away then.
If it didn't pay, maybe his defense or his team
Is
could
that
present it as a
yeah, the consolation, yeah.
So I had no idea about this. So this actually kind of makes sense, right? Why would that be controversial then? I asked. In other words, if the species is endangered, and in order to stop the poachers who would hunt it in a reckless fashion and quantity into actual extinction, a select number of hunters pay a reasonable amount for the pleasure of trophy hunting, and then that money is invested into preserving the
Exactly.
rest of the species. So that actually does make sense.
It's so interesting, Nicholas, that some people get far more emotional about something like a lion or a giraffe or something than they do about a cow being slaughtered. Same difference, isn't it? Is it just aesthetics?
Well, there's more cows though, isn't there? That's
Yeah, but that's because of us. Because if we didn't slaughter them for meat, then they wouldn't be there, would they?
Yeah, that's
So
what
you'd say,
they're not. Cows are kind of more common. Commonplace. That's all it is.
Well, that's because of it. I mean, there is an
They're
argument.
very tasty as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is an argument that has been made by biologists, which is this, that like sheep, they're effectively manipulating us by their tastiness. Sheep would be far less. If you take like Richard Dawkins, I mean, his stand-up is not that great, to be honest. When you were talking about the atheists and whatnot, Richard Dawkins stand-up. I mean, he's a great guy, beautiful guy, marvelous guy, lives in Oxfordshire, tremendous. However, his stand-up isn't that great. But one of these biologist arguments is because lamb is so tasty, they are manipulating us to permit them to reproduce, to replicate across the landscape, and then therefore that's what's in it for them. Mm-hmm. So they're actually they're farming us. We're not farming lamb.
Some parasites behave like that, don't they?
Well, it's the cat one, isn't it? Where it effectively makes like cat ladies. I mean, BoloXology is the podcast which married the sex kitten that became the cat lady. I think that's, it makes sense in metaphysical terms. It doesn't make literal sense.
If the cat lady did believe in God, then she didn't need to replace God and religion with the cat.
She gets 20 cats to me. That's not a clouder of cats anymore. That's just too many cats, isn't it? It's like you've got too much pussy at that point, and that's like way too much. But it is an absolutely sound ecological principle that you have to make something, especially to the local people who live in these places with the rare species or whatever. You have to make them a commodity which can be sold for a value. And they immediately see the value in preserving the environment, not fucking it up, not turning everything into pointy sticks and killing a load of tootsies. Tootsie, goodbye, isn't it?
But people can't see it through the lens of an indulgence, though. Very kind of that. That's that. Well,
Ego.
Yeah, ego, indulgence.
Yeah, you're right.
Flying into the fucking helicopter.
Yeah. I mean, it is indulgence, probably, but it's just, as I say, that's the main of the funds that the anti-poaching.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it in a sporting way, but I mean, the Arabs, they don't do it in like the biggest. They're not the most sporting people in the world. They get in a helicopter, and they've got like a Gatling gun or whatever firing out. Yeah, really? Seriously, yeah. That was the thing with the polar bears. So it wasn't climate change or anything that was threatening the polar bears. It was like, I want a rug for my condo in London or whatever, and they'd go out. like blam the
Yeah,
fuck
fucking
out.
holy lot, it'd be a rug with a lot of holes in it.
Yeah. I mean, your taxidermy guy, you can do like yes, covers up a.
So I think, yeah, I mean, there's the argument that you're killing just for pleasure and not for eating the animal, and it has no benefit to which this scheme actually does. Because you said the money is funneled into the projects that otherwise wouldn't have been financed by the government. But this is also the American dentist. Then the question of vanity and the class hate also plays a part, and not just with hunting. Like when those people died in that private submarine called Titan. There was a lot of, rich people can afford submarines, so they died. Who cares?
Yeah.
These were CEOs and whatnot. So I think that is another element that plays into the whole.
I mean, that would have been an interesting, wouldn't it? And the Katy Perry and all those characters going up there, if that had gone literally tits up, with the phallic sort of vibrator rocket that they went up in, and it just went kaboom. What would be the reaction of the left there? Because they are there of their own, apparently. I mean, when I was a communist, we would have looked to Katy Perry particularly as being a siren of the left. But now they seem to, don't they?
I don't think anybody takes them seriously. I don't think that. Look, there's this American comic, kind of, I would say, anti-woke. I don't really see the label, but he had a bit about that and said, yeah, they came back, hey, we did it for women, and women are like, yeah, we're struggling to pay rent. You didn't do it for us, you did it just for your own vanity. It's like when a bunch of guys go out and have a fun night, and everybody maybe gets lucky, or maybe they've just got lucky the week before, and one of them gets lucky tonight and says, oh, I got lucky for all of us. Everyone says, yeah, but if everybody's hard up for the past 8 months or so, and one of us gets lucky, and I had a threesome, you didn't have it for us, you had a threesome. Kind of,
Absolutely, yeah.
A dry spell. And also,
It brings you back to the altruism stuff I was talking about in the previous.
Yeah, the iron. It's not Iron Rand, is it? It's
Ayn Rand.
Iron Rand.
I just wanted to pick you up on something that you said about that they're not hunting it to eat, and so that these so that's kind of repetitive. Well, my cats, one of my cats was a real huntress when she was younger, and she would only eat about half of her prey. The other half of her prey she would just kill for the sake of it, and it's sport to her. So that's a very it's more ambiguous.
I was just raising the argument.
Yeah.
But personally, what the argument I have or used to have with vegetarians was that, okay, if we stop eating cows and pigs, all right, or sheep, it's not like they're going to be released into the wild. The very reason they have been raised and bred by the farmer or by the breeder is for that purpose. Yeah. It's one thing to go into the woods and kill the bear or even the deer, because presumably the deer is already living a natural life. It would have been there, but the farm animals are reared for that purpose. So that's the argument.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the most populous bird on Earth is the chicken, because we have massive sheds with chickens in them. But the very core, actually, of conservation always came from hunters. So you look, fishing is the most popular sport in this country, probably in the world. I don't know, but it definitely is in this country. Angling, and the reason those lakes exist, stocked with big fish, is that they put a predator fish in there. So basically, a lake has a certain yardage of fish. You have a fish tank. If you have a fish tank, it has a certain length of fish in there, and you can divide that number of fish up between so many fish. So with a lake, if you pop a pike in it, then you get bigger fish in there, because otherwise you get lots of tiddlers, and they don't want that, obviously, yeah. And also, the very fact that this lake is preserved, You go and then, rack that up to Yellowstone, whatever. Audubon, for instance, was an ornithologist who used to shoot birds to then paint them. But then this made the conservation of birds a thing because everybody wanted to see. He did them on double elephant paper, yeah. They're just amazing paintings. He sold these books as double elephant-sized pieces of paper bound, and everybody wanted to then therefore see all of these birds, like sort of like a train spotter almost, ticking them all. But yeah, I mean, you've had that experience of
There's also just one other thing to say is like with conservation, sometimes you've got to cull, like let's say deer in the north of this country. You've got to cull them, otherwise they get overpopulated and they actually go extinct because they eat all the vegetation, So
I mean, in Germany, for instance, you have to be like very highly qualified, almost a degree or master's level to be a hunter. I don't know if you're aware of this. Yeah, they basically the kill has to be they have to be a great shot. They have to know about all of the ecology. I mean, when I say master's degree, I'm not mucking around there. That's basically what they are. Yeah.
In this country, we've had controversies and over foxes and badgers. Very strong feelings. Rural tendency.
I mean, it's all horses for courses. The badgers thing doesn't make sense. Because if you go culling badgers, then basically what happens then is you've got a vacant niche, so the badgers move about. So if they do have what's the disease that they have? It affects TB.
yeah.
So that affects the cows. But if you cull the badgers, then what you want them to not do is move. Obviously, they do move if there's a vacant set where you've just killed all those badgers. So, yeah. Also, inadvertently, you might kill Brian May, and that would be just terrible. Yeah. So why, James, do you love shooting rare species in the face?
Oh, it's just like as Nicholas and Andy were saying, for pure vanity.
Vanity, all this vanity in Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, the ego.
And
I just love to stand next to dead animals that I've culled.
And you
dressed rather like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the colonial, the post-colonial.
Exactly.
Mm. Yeah. They call it the Boris Johnson pose, don't they? Have you seen that one? When he's got his massive packet and somebody's like photographing from below to accentuate it. Did you ever have one of those? You obviously have to, unfortunately, also have the undersides of your nose sort of in the shot. But yeah. Anyway, seamlessly segueing Italian word onto me because we're saving Nicholas DeSanto and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, seamlessly segueing into my subject, which is multiple stable states. It should not be mistaken, though. The words, which they're ambiguous words, though, I admit. So stable, I don't mean by that a place where you keep horses. I mean the concept of stability. By states, I don't mean countries. I mean a orientation in which a thing can be. That is, it exists in a state. Not a state like you exist in, like a country estate, or that you are a state. I mean, in a game theoretical sense, essentially, that there are these conditions which something can be. Some things are better than others. That's how states sort of occur, and they can be multiple as well. Not as in orgasm, but as in different orientations. So, if we imagine a pair of breasts hanging there pendulously, with the nipple, just like a cartoon, really, like the things that you draw, James. Yeah. So, and then you a pair of breasts. All right, it's a little bit small, actually. Yeah. I mean, That's not even C cup, is it? So you've got your cock, you've got your breast. Well, we're really, this is a very, very erudite ecological subject, which dovetails into that of James. Basically, okay, we'll go with a valley then, which is in Wales. That's the cwm, right? So
The quit.
cwm. A valley exists. So two valleys within which, between the two valleys, is a mountain. And say you have a beach ball, then you can drop it either side. You drop it directly on the mountaintop, and it goes into one of the two valleys and bounces about. Yeah. So that's a state in which this beach ball can exist. It bounces about there, and it's basically going to be very hard to get into the other stable state, which is the other valley. So this is a metaphor. This is a metaphor. Unfortunately, it's an ecological metaphor which uses a landscape as a metaphor. So let's make it concrete then. Say you've got a lake. We'll go back to the lake with the fish in it of the various lengthages. And that's a word. That is very much a word, is lengthages. Now, one stable state in which it can exist with clear water. The clear water is maintained because there's a certain level of nutrients that's going into that lake. It doesn't have an algal bloom. People like to live around the lake. Barack Obama has got his his sort of his big mansion there. Where's the place? Martha's Vineyard and all that kind of shit. Yeah. So there he is. Anyway, he's enjoying the lake. Boom! What happens? Somebody throws a load of fertilizer in it, fucks it up because it gets an algal bloom. It comes a smelly cesspit. That's the alternative stable state in which
I've had
things
some
can occur.
smelly sex.
Yeah. You've between several states, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
You've moved out of Richmond into, you've been down to Croydon even sometimes, haven't you? So that's a very unstable state. Anyway, I think we've got the concept already, have we? Are we all on page?
No, I really don't.
I sort of, I must admit, I'm sort of struggling with this.
All right, okay. So you've got
You said you were going to be concrete, but it didn't really help. It's a bit disappointing.
It's water. Yeah, I wasn't going to talk about concrete. Here we are anyway in the hunting lodge. That we're going to go out and blam some animals for ourselves later. But yeah, the stable states that this lake can occur in, go from the high nutrient levels one with the algae. That's stable because it's very hard. And this is a concept as well which I want to introduce to you, which is called the hysteresis, which means going from that to the other state is very hard. Once you've got it in this stable state, it's very hard to then get over the mountaintop with that beach ball, yeah? See, this is why we have the intellectual volunteers to understand that, Hysteresis.
Can you catch that?
No,
That is theoretical.
no, it relates to, like, time, yeah. So you can't turn back time.
Oh, don't worry. Historic.
It's with a Y actually, as it happens. So I'm not entirely. I'm not wanting to go into being a amateur etymologist. Yeah, I'm an amateur entomologist, but I don't want to be an amateur etymologist. So, without being derailed into an unstable state where Plan B comes into operation, James knows very much what that's like for me. Right?
Oh, I know your plan.
Yeah, Plan B. Yeah. Basically, you have these alternate states in which things. Another example, which spuriously people cite, is that of the coral reef. Now they think that once it's bleached, it's fucked. Like bleached anus is absolutely fucked. Then it's going to hurt for a while, but it's not the case. Coral exists in a stable state as a symbiosis with its algae. Within that, the algae, that's like doing the photosynthesis, like this, the rays. But if say you get a perturbation, which is it's like something like a hurricane, it knocks over the sort of stag's horn corals, fucks it up, and then that means the stable state is maintained of it being sort of a garbage field. The predator, which is the starfish, very, very ardent starfish, basically, so it's terrible. It's quite a harsh predator. It has a very low metabolic rate, though, so it's an unusual predator. It can just basically hoover up anything that tries to grow back again. And then so that's another stable state it's maintained in. Obviously, this concept, which really hasn't gotten over to you by now, but it never will if it hasn't, is applicable to sort of political situations, as many ecological concepts are actually, in political circumstances. So maybe an example which might be easy for people to understand is you have on the one hand a high trust society. Out in the fens, people leave eggs. You pay the money in the box. It's called a trust box even. It's a high trust circumstance. Japan. Hopefully the accuser will kill anybody who tries to make it a low trust society. We're not saying who those people are. We're not saying where they come from. But anyway, that's a high trust society. But once you achieve, that achievement is for Keir Starmer, isn't it? Once you get to a low trust society, very, very hard then to get to a high trust society, because who is going to leave their phone on the table like a dickhead in, a travel place like they can in Malaysia? Because in Malaysia, if you break the law, it's very breaky lawry. You will find yourself with your nuts on a table and people taking a hammer to them. So therefore, you don't want to break the law. Here, it's not so much. It's like, oh, slap on the wrist. Oh, don't do that again. It's very naughty. Whereas Andy goes out and he does all his bigotry online, and the size nines of the old Bill will be down on him like a ton of bricks. That's a low trust society. You can't transition between the two very easily. So, yeah. That's why, well, I'll answer then, therefore, as nobody's going to ask me because you've all fallen off your perches by now. This is why it appeals to me, because the whole panoply of ecological concepts, actually, and game theoretical approaches are very applicable to all things human and all things in political policy, actually. Yeah. They can't see the cock that you've drawn there. You need a Sharpie.
I think, how much price can I afford this?
Oh, well, we'll have an auction this evening, won't we? Yeah. We have Dan Wooten made by it.
Well, Paul, I mean, most of the things that you say go over my head, so I really just don't even know what to convert the with.
Right, and I am very drunk at this time as well, so that's quite bad.
Already.
So what was that? What was that word? Lengthy?
Lengthy.
Yeah. I mean, this will be cited.
So you slip someone. Do you slip someone a lengthy?
Only if it's fish.
Oh, only if it's.
Yeah. I mean, if you start getting, you're very jaded if you start getting fished involved, really. But I mean, just going on time and everything, and we have the talents of in vicinity of where he has worked in the past as well, in Paddington Basin. I mean, we're probably on the level here of GB News. We have star of stage and screen, Nicholas DeSanto, ex of GB News, and obviously the guy who will take it over in Plan B in the future. But he's going to cover for us Keir Starmer's. Yeah, Keir Starmer's machinations. Keir Starmer's machinations on the world stage, making deals.
Right. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. This actually sort of links well to the concept you were talking about. Stable states and how it's difficult once we've reached a low trust society to move back to a high trust society. And I kind of like that analogy or parallel concept because Keir Starmer over the past few days came up with two major announcements, two big trade deals, and of course, these two trade deals, or in general, trade deals, very important for a post-Brexit Britain because the whole idea of Brexit or one of the major drives was to be able to be independent, our own sovereign nation once again, and deal with the world as a country of sailors and colonizers and explorers and businessmen without the shackles of the European Union. Because in the European Union, the exclusive uh, prerogative of making trade deals is with the EU Commission. So no matter how pro-Trump or anti-Trump or pro-China or anti-China a specific EU member is, they can't go alone. So the major deals that have been announced were with India and with the US. First with India, which is obviously a huge nation, but this came as a bit of a shock, if anybody can be shocked by Keir's incompetence or nefarious machinations by this point, because we learned that apparently thousands of visas will be issued to Indian workers and their whole families, as already advertised on the Indian social media, to come over here and be exempt from national insurance tax for 3 years, which raised the issue or concerns that we are going towards two-tier citizenship. So everybody has heard of a two-tier legal system on the back of the race riots in the wake of the Southport incident, where 3 little white kids were stabbed to death and dozens injured by this black kid. And we saw how the actual perpetrators of this incident and similar incidents usually get the proverbial slap on the hand, if at all, while several white people ended up in prison or in jail, mother of 2 kids, granddad, teenagers, for either throwing a brick or even more glamorously tweeting or retweeting mean things about immigration and mass immigration. So the two-tier tier and the two-tier justice system has now found a parallel in the two-tier fiscal system, whereby the argument is British people, native or not, are going to be reduced to second-tier citizens, even when it comes to paying a national insurance to the to HMRC. So this is one thing, and then there has been always this, and I don't want to alienate my sizable Indian fans because I have a lot, due to a common enemy that me and the Indian fans have. But Indians are allegedly very much have this a high rate of in-group bias. So in a department, in any working place, 1 or 2 Indians make their ways, and suddenly the whole thing goes Indian. And this is also a Canadian talking point as well, because Canada has taken a lot of Indian immigrants. So I've seen this in Canada as well. Doesn't matter how true this allegation is or not, but the point is that objectively, it is going to make it more attractive for an employer, Indian or not, to go for these newcomers, because it means less insurance, less national insurance to pay. So whether or not there is the bias or the in-group bias, effectively, it's a matter of figures and numbers, and that's the incentive, and that's why apparently the government of India has demanded this of Keir, and Keir has agreed. So I don't know what we have obtained in return, but this has been the source of a lot of concern and clamor.
Do you think the reason why the Labour government, what's the word I'm searching for? Let's just say just agreed to that ridiculous deal because they say it's receptive. Okay, is it really? Because Brits aren't going to want to work in India. Why they agreed to that? Why they agreed to the Trump deal? Is it because of the disastrous results?
Potentially. Now, you briefly mentioned the deal with the US as well. Here, we are basically comparing apples and oranges because he could argue that, well, in exchange for this concession, for this privilege that I have given to India, they're going to open their markets for this or that, for these British exports. But then that will only benefit those British industries. And the question is, would the general public actually accept this as a fair trade-off? Because the whole point of Brexit, again, was having sovereignty, and the whole argument was we want to have more control over our borders, because obviously once you're in the EU, you don't have that control. But you could very well argue, as I would, that if you wanted to have more people come here and basically compete with the British borders, I might as well have them from Poland or Germany or Spain or Portugal, where we have more similar culture and values. Again, the question of high trust society or low trust society. That was the whole point of Brexit. So you might argue that, and in fact, it wasn't a surprise where the only major British city that voted for Brexit was Birmingham, because a lot of Indians or Pakistanis were unhappy and resenting this freedom of movement. They would argue that, oh, why do the Poles come here, but my cousin from India cannot? And of course, the answer was because we're in a political union with Poland and we are not with India.
So what do you say? Sorry to be quick, but we have time. Would you say it's actually a good thing that more Indians are coming here, given we share perhaps a common?
Not necessarily, because we can fight our common enemy in the enemy's territory. We have seen in Leicester, we've seen elsewhere that and right now as India and Pakistan are actually fighting on the verge of maybe even a broad war, we see that tension on our own streets. Because when you import massive numbers of people, and we already have from a different culture, very different culture, then you bring all those dynamics and hostilities, and then you have not all of this, of course, applies to the Indians, but you have cousin marriage, and you have honor killings, and you have low trust society. So again, and people might have different opinions on this, but this is no longer just a trade issue that I think Keir Starmer has taken upon himself and signed this deal. When we think about the trade issue, we can talk about the trade deal with the US again, which doesn't have this element, and decide or argue whether or not it's beneficial for Britain or not. Some people even have reservations on that, but how good that has been for Britain. I don't know if I have time to.
I mean, one of the things is that they're not competing on an equal footing, basically.
No.
So I don't know what percentage national insurance is, say it's 10% or whatever. Gary's probably the only person who pays it here, whatever. But let's say it's that 10% is a
job, isn't it?
10% is a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're not competing on an equal footing. Okay, Hindu and Sikh is probably a more compatible culture with the Christian one than many other religions are. We're not mentioning what those religions are, but they are probably Sikh, for instance, is very, very low proportion.
So not all Indians are going to be Hindu or Sikh. In India, there's more Muslims than Pakistan.
Yeah, exactly. As well. So that's the. I mean, the other thing as well is, say you're a citizen of this country, and you are from the Indian subcontinent. What's to stop you from going over there, having a holiday, and coming back with the name, I don't know, Sanjeet or something, or different one to you thing? Oh yeah, I'm an immigrant, now I don't want to pay the national insurance, thank you very much. So that's like, well, what's to stop that, for one thing? The other thing is that it's not a stable situation. Going back to my multiple stable states, you've now got people as a second-class citizen in their own country, paying tax, paying into a system which other people are going to be drawing from, because these people are going to be using the NHS, even if they're coders or whatever, generating income, and their families as well. So
This government has been powerless to stop the votes, which is the reason they won, because basically Tories were so abject in that regard that people stayed home so that.
Think people voted Labour thinking they were going to be anti-immigration?
No, people. No, that's what I'm saying. People didn't vote. Labour basically is in power with the same number of votes that they got the last time round when they lost.
Even less.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the only difference is that people who would have voted Tory or anyone else but Labour stayed home because the Tories didn't stop the votes. And now we have the same story with the votes, if not worse. And just as if it was not enough, we are announcing that people who wouldn't be coming through votes would be coming through this sort of incentive. So it's just basically adding insult to injury.
I mean, bear in mind as well, they not only don't have a mandate, they don't have a mandate for this. So everything that was in the manifesto, I guess everybody here, they read it religiously, didn't they? They went through, absolutely. But everything in the manifesto, they haven't done. Everything that wasn't in the manifesto, they are doing. Like right from whatever they're doing. None of it's from it's like you have a menu and you ordered from it, even if you were knowledgeable about that. Now it's all a smorgasbord that's just dropping on the table like a giant turd, basically.
So to get back to James's question, even if you did this to get a bit of good press, well, you need to define what good press is, because at a time when reform is breathing on the back of their neck, coming up with this thing about, effectively two-tier citizenship, I don't know how good this will do them, even from a cynical point of view.
There was one, it might have been Julie Hartley-Brewer, who said something like, is reform actually now? Hey, is Keir Starmer in the pocket of reform now? They couldn't have hoped for a worse kind of trade deal with India.
But it's not just that as well. I mean, the other thing is the American one, isn't it? So that's happened as well. So, like with the cars, previously it was something like 8.5%, something like that, and that was the only tariff that we were paying. So right across the board now it's 10%. So it's like Trump is all about the art of the deal. Some people may have read his book or whatever. So he's saying about the art of the deal, and Keir Starmer couldn't even be bothered to read that. It's like he's gone into these negotiations and said, here's my butthole. I've greased it up. Can you please ram it as hard as you can with your spiked penis? And Trump has gone, you're a small guy. You're an unattractive guy. But I'm going to fuck you up the ass. And that's exactly what he done,
He did the dirty, he did the...
Well, he might have got it, but it's not in the national interest, is it? To have, as a rent boy, your prime minister. As Canadians.
But I don't think the Labour government has any real concept of what the national interest actually is.
No, they're not in favour. Sorry, Nick.
Sorry, yeah.
But the country, a notion of what the fucking best interests of the country is.
Well, it's
also been stood on its head, upside down. This is right is left, left is right. I think we've got off. For me, it's not really particularly politically au fait. I haven't got a fucking clue what's going on.
We have a baying mob, a bevy of beauties waiting for us to.
We're auctioning this.
And we're auctioning the pictures.
Well, I
So the candidate for final question.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Thank you, Gary. What I will do is then I'll have
Chippy
for you to tie it up in a neat bow. Why you were interested in the subject, and to do concluding remarks regarding the whole Keir Starmer schmear stuff.
It's interesting because I'm interested in current affairs, and these tariff wars is all the rage and the impact on the stock market. Then Brexit was a big deal for all of us, whether or not we stood for it or against it. So this ties this is part of the consequence of the whole post-Brexit Britain. And then there's this racial element, two-tier citizenship, which, as I said, started with the whole two-tier legal system, and now we're having on fiscal level. And it remains to be seen who benefits from this. Will this be another sword, or anyway, a sword where on which Keir Starmer and his government fall, or it will be good for Britain? It's hard to say because, again, as I said, it's apples and oranges. And again, with the U.S., both sides sounded triumphant in this press conference, which was symbolically on the 8th of May, victory in Europe. Direct phone call between Trump and Starmer, televised, and the Americans and the British were very upbeat. But the thing is, they have kept the 10% tariff on British goods pretty much across the board. They've exempted a few cars, like just in thousands. The first 10,000 cars, I'm not sure about the
I think it's 100,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
It's
they
not
all
much
say
for the
it's not
American.
great, yeah.
exempt, and they have exempted Rolls-Royce engines for Boeing in exchange for Brits buying a few.
Which they need those
number of
engines
Boeing
anyway, yeah.
aircraft. But ultimately, they have opened, for example, the British market to the American beef, and there have been some concerns about the health. They couldn't export that beef to the EU that easily. So
Yeah.
this question was asked in the press conference, and the Americans tried to allay any concern. No, we have the best beef, and don't worry, Robert RFK Jr. is in charge of our health department, and it's going to be healthy and good for both sides. But 10% tariff is still there, which means British goods, which used to be in America with an average of 2.5% tariff, will now be generally tariffed 10%. So they're going to be more expensive. And also the American consumer can say, hey, it's going to be more expensive for me as well. So who benefits this? Not necessarily the consumer. Depends which sector you are. If you are Boeing, yes. If you're Rolls-Royce, yes. If you are the American farmer who exports that beef, yes. If you're the British consumer who buys that beef and wants to have this beef, which wasn't on the British market up until now, yes. But again, what is national interest? The nation is made up of different segments and sectors, and not everybody is going to be happy. The rich side is going to be alright.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to see some America. So just to wrap it all up in a tight ball then, basically today, I'm going to still buy my beef from South America, from Argentina. I'm going to get me Frey Bentos pies, because I ate all the fucking pies. And to go around, then what we've learned today is that Britain has been shafted up the ass yet again by India, by the pilau rice, whatever, yeah, by the sagaloo, by the Americans, and that multiple stable states are quite a complicated theory of which I thought was fairly simple, but
We still don't
know
know if God exists.
we don't know if God exists, and he's already packing away his notes.
I'm going to market disposable ivory toothpicks.
Ivory toothpicks, disposable ones, which is going to obviously create a market for shooting elephants. And Gary McGee is big in Japan, and he's big into Japan as well. So today we'll say goodbye. We've got a bevy of beauties waiting for us to cure us of everything. Did you get healed? No, you didn't get healed. You got BoloXology.
BoloXology, ladies and gentlemen.
BoloXology.